The teenage brain is the most vulnerable. So it's usually in the teenage years, the child's brain is going through what is called the second brain revolution. A lot of changes are happening in the brain. I'm going to use what is called the handy model of the brain. This is the spinal cord, all of us have it. Then this part of the brain is called the brain stem. This is the place where all the everyday functions like respiration, digestion, circulation, all those are wired in this part. This part is developed when the baby is in the uterus. So it is not affected by external distractions. However, if there is a loud sound like an explosion and you have a startle response, this is the part that gives that signal. This is the fright, flight, freeze response where the stress or the survival responses come from. For teenagers, this part is quite active. Now, this is the second part of the human brain. This is what we call the limbic system or the emotional system. These two together are very important for the teenage brain because a lot of activity is happening here. The limbic system or the emotional part of the brain is where they're experiencing a lot of emotions and it's very, very super active. So many children, they get stuck in their emotions and they're going around in circles. They are not able to come out of it, which is also why when they fight with you, they don't speak to you for 2-3 days because the emotion gets triggered repeatedly and they are not able to come out of it. For an adult, the cortical region or the cortex is also strong. This is the thinking part. For a teenager, this is still developing. So their subcortical areas are very strong. Cortical area is not very strong. So if you and I as adults, we have a fight with somebody, we come back home, we think about everything, we feel emotional, all of that. But after a certain point, we're able to say, no, no, this is not so important. I need to change my perspective. We do something so that we are able to make sense of the experience. Whereas for a teenager, they get stuck here in the emotional part or get stuck in the fright, flight, freeze response, which is for survival, and they find it difficult to come out. As adults, as teachers, as parents, it's very important to realize that when we shame our children, when we provoke them to anger, when we push them and we make them feel really small, that's when they go into the rebellion and they don't want to come out of it. Why is teenage rebellion so important? It is when they are developing their own identity. A good adult or a supportive adult is one who understands that teenagers will go through the identity crisis, which means around the age of 10, they slowly start questioning you. You are no longer ideal. Their friends know everything. They want to dress like their friends. They no longer want to wear the clothes that you have bought for them. These are all very important because they are trying to find who am I without the identity of my family. And why is my identity so important for me? How can it be closer to my peer group? This is a very important transformation that many children go through. What can we do as adults to help them? In the classroom, if you're a teacher, it's important to understand that many teenagers will try to play pranks, tease you, make the class laugh, out of turn, things like that, because they're trying to say, I am in control, maybe not you. And at that point, as a teacher, if I try to exert more control and shame them or punish them, the class goes into a divide. It will be you versus the rest of the class, and you will not be able to continue the class. However, if you laugh it off, but then call them later and say, what is it that we can work on? What is it you would like to learn? And you become an inspiring teacher, it builds the bond for life where you set the tone for inspiration. Many of you, as teenagers, could have had an inspiring teacher who changed the course of your school life. I had a geography teacher who was able to do that. Similarly, you can, as a teacher, do the same, as opposed to using control, feeling powerful, but breaking down the relationship. Because ultimately, learning is about the connection and never about the content. The second aspect of the teenage identity crisis, they will be influenced by the peer group. So you need to understand peer group influence is necessary, not peer pressure. The difference is peer group influence means they will start learning language like keywords, cue words that they will use together. There will be gang words, and There will be one clique, we call them teenage gangs or teenage cliques. The clique will have a certain number of children, and exclusion from the clique is very, very painful for the teenager. So when a teenager comes home and complains that the friends are not involving me in the group, it is equivalent to being abandoned. So we need to understand that it's not an imaginary crisis, it's in fact a real crisis. Relational aggression, which is either through bullying or exclusion, is very painful for the teenager. And if teenagers are going through this, we have a lot of responsibility as adults to support them through it, not by becoming friends, not by rubbishing the or minimizing their experience, but by helping them understand that we will be there. And as they navigate through their emotions and understand that betrayal and abandonment are part of life, they will be able to find new relationships where they can explore their identity. The most important aspect of the teenage brain, it is most susceptible and vulnerable to all mental illnesses. If we do not create the right ecosystem for their growth, we inadvertently push them into becoming mentally ill, especially with so much of gadget usage and gadget addiction. The number of children reporting anxiety and depression has grown to more than 90%. Also, because social media keeps feeding this trend, we need to be even more careful how we work with them. So, as a parent or as an adult, please don't minimize these things. These are real crises, and it is something that we need to work together to make a difference. Three things that will work for us: one, respect them as an equal while having healthy boundaries. So, by this, I don't mean you have to just allow them to do whatever they want, but we create a space within which there is healthy dialogue and we are able to help them through any difficulty that they're going through. Second, more important, make way for healthy relationships that they can have with their peer group. If your child is struggling with relationships, they are likely to go into gaming, go into some kind of gadget usage just to distract themselves and not build relationships. Relationships are built only during adolescence, and it's important that we make space and make time for children to explore those relationships. Third, and most important, please understand that by being punitive, by punishing children, we cut off the opportunity to help them make a change. When children make a mistake, be there. You don't need to always accept what they're doing, but you need to be there so that they will know that they can come to you even if they've made a mistake, so that with your support, they will be able to learn the right behaviors. I hope this helps.